Hello again, everyone. Welcome to this live Friday edition of Gulfstream Today. It is great to have you with us here, live from our paddock set studios at sunny Gulfstream Park. Acacia Courtney, Jason Blewett next to her, and delighted to have you with us again as we start a little later than usual. 9 races on the card.
9 races coming up today. 2:15 is our first post for that Twilight Friday. It's going to go through the end of September. Live music later on today. Don't forget about that. But we're really looking forward, as we do every week, to Friday, because it also means Beat the Expert. And Jason, it's Ron's turn.
It's Ron's turn. He was out of town last Friday, so I stood in his place, and I looked like Conor McGregor hitting the mat with Mayweather.
I was not much better the week before.
No, it was ugly. The last 2 Fridays for Acacia and myself in the pick box were ugly. Today, our El Guapo, a.k.a. El Guapo.
Yes.
He's going to turn it around. He is we call him the mayor of Gulfstream Park, lovingly. No better guy in the game of thoroughbred racing than the one and only Ron Nicoletti. You can take him on for free over on our Facebook page. Beat the Expert each and every Friday, and this is a big weekend. Geez, we're off and running in September, which is just nuts. But we certainly, Acacia, start the new month on the right foot.
We do. Tomorrow, September 2nd, is the second installment of the Florida Sire Stakes, and we have another summer soiree going on upstairs at 10 Palms. It's sweets and treats this time, Jason, so you can get your tickets at the box office. Sounds great. They always put on a nice spread up there. That's from 1 to 5.
All right, and also the Florida Sire Stakes tomorrow, round number 2 for the Florida sired, Florida-bred 2-year-olds. That sounds a little redundant to me. What's not redundant are these field slates. And up first, the 2-year-old fillies who get their chance. I think their race goes as the 10th or the 11th, right? It's the 10th.
10 and 12.
10 and 12. It's a 13-race card. We begin a little earlier than usual at noon, and we will find out, A, just how good Go Astray is off her win in the Desert Vixen, and B, whether Awesome Mass, who I picked on top, and she'll likely go favored, whether she can rebound to that big maiden win here in July.
I like Awesome Mass as well, so we'll see if she's able to rebound. You mentioned Go Astray. She did win back in August, and she is a daughter of Gone Astray, of course, the sire of 3 Rules. So we've seen him be very successful in the Florida Sire Stakes, but Ralph Nix will have 2 as well. He schooled all of his entrants yesterday afternoon, as he also has 4 represented in the boys race in the Affirmed, including the recent winner of the Dr. Fager in what's his name?
Phantom
Row.
Yeah,
On the rail. On the rail.
The gray Phantom Row on the rail has got Edgar Zayas. He's a son of the late Wildcat Air. It was a perfect 2 for 2. And much like Go Astray in the filly counterpart, the Susan's Girl, this is going to be a very big test for Phantom Row, whether he can stay the 7 furlongs. Doing that from a very tough and demanding inside post. And to be honest, I think this race came up even tougher than the Dr. Fager did. There are new shooters, including World of Trouble, who broke his main by a pole for Kathleen O'Connell. And I would not count out Dunk or Sutash, who were in the wake of Phantom Row about a month ago.
They were, and I'm actually intrigued by Capital S, who's the other Ralph Nix runner.
Ooh, nice price.
He's giving me a really nice price. He is he's making his stakes debut. Actually, just broke his maiden, so he's not tested as of yet. But I did like what I saw from him in schooling yesterday as well. So looks like the Nix barn does have a very good chance and some good representation.
It's like the old Dwayne Lucas move back in those early Breeders' Cup juvenile races when Dwayne would run 3, 4, 5 horses. Ralph Nix obviously on a good run, and it's amazing. I was talking to him prior to that opening leg of the Florida Sire Stakes, in which he obviously won the Dr. Fager with Phantom Row, and he was saying before he came down, or when he got down here to South Florida a couple of years ago, as a trainer, of course, only had a dozen horses in his care, and that is an operation that has grown and grown and grown and continues to evolve. I mean, he's really become a high-profile name.
Yeah, pretty amazing to see the change from then till now. You have runners up in Saratoga, and of course, a huge presence down here in currently certainly the leading trainer.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And I think the year-round program here, basically at Gulfstream Park, for a good 10 and a half months, 10 months or so, affords Ralph a chance to continue to evolve in the stable department, and we'll look forward to seeing what his 2-year-olds can do tomorrow afternoon. We will also, on this Beat the Expert Twilight Friday, give you a rundown as to what's on tap, and it all begins a little after 2:15 in the first race today with that first carryover on the card. $2,800 in the kitty in that dollar rolling super high five, and that will also coincide with the opening leg of Friday's early pick 5 for just 50 cents. In case you will have a ticket coming your way in just a few seconds, and let's not forget about the Rainbow 6 carryover. It's starting to grow.
It is $55,000 plus. There were no singles heading into the last race yesterday, so we have a really nice carryover today. As I said, we're trying to pad that bankroll for tomorrow for the Great 13 race card with the Florida Sire Stakes. So don't miss out on that carryover today in race number 4, as we just have 9, and then we close things out as always with the 50-cent late pick 5. That'll be in the 5th race today.
And in the 7th, which is definitely an anchor, maybe the most important leg in my opinion in today's Rainbow 6 and the late pick 5, I'm wondering if Tilly's Lily will prove best. Did you take her on top there?
I think I used her second. I think I still had a couple questions for her, but it's been a pretty good weekend for trainer Jonathan Thomas, winning with Catholic Boy in the With Anticipation up in Saratoga, and then getting Righteous Ruth in a very tight photo finish yesterday.
Not the closest photo, however, on the turf yesterday. That was a nose or a half a nose for Righteous Ruth. Bit later on, we had a dead heat on the grass. So the races have been hotly contested here, to say the least, at Gulfstream Park. And I think that turf course, with the rain and even the break in the action, was just in tip-top shape yesterday. And we certainly expect the same on a very warm September 1st here in Hallandale Beach. The sun is out, and the spotlight, in fact, is on the first race today and the opening leg of the first pick 5. It's a 7.5 furlong turf race, and you're likely looking at a real big favorite in the 5. Porter Street. Is this horse a single for you?
No, definitely not a single. We'll give you a look at my
big
pick.
spread.
I wanted to spread. I said I want coverage here. I like Porter Street on top, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but I wanted some coverage. I think you have the main speed with King Hood. Though he is stepping up in class, he has actually won against $30,000 claiming types. Classic Move is interesting, and I like Contraction at a price for sure. So I'll spread in there. Just going to use 2 with a Square to Spare and Tale of Preselli. One kind of unknown going back to the dirt, and one with prior dirt form in there. You have 2-year-olds on the turf, several of them for the first time, or just maybe stretching out in distance, going that 7.5 furlongs in the 3rd. Wanted some coverage again. Going to be just using 2 deep. The 3 Meant to Be Mine, who faced the boys last time, and the 2 Tapping Colors, a high-priced Whisper Hill Farm purchase, the 4-year-old Tappet filly. Going to use those 2, and then I'll single Untruthful Sonnet in the 5th race. In Armando de la Cerda, we trust. I think this horse she's going to be the controlling speed in there. So $24 to start off the day.
Yeah, she has not run Untruthful Sonnet this cheap on the turf.
Right.
And with her early speed dropping down with Gaffleone, you figure she's going to be tough, or I figure, like you, she'll be tough on the front end, and that may ultimately be the first half of a very short-priced Armando de la Cerda double, with the mess coming up as I think the horse to beat in Friday's 6th race. But in talking about the first today and the 5 Porter Street, we are dealing with a former Coolmore castaway. This horse was bred under the gargantuan umbrella of Coolmore, now in the care of Safi Joseph Jr., who's the listed owner and trainer off the claim with this horse, who has found a home here in South Florida. His last 3 turf races for a couple of different barns have been excellent efforts. And why don't we show you his last start here just under 50 days ago on July 14th. Now, he is coming out of a race. He had a very good trip that afternoon beneath Tyler Gaffleone, who just took basically every advantage he could get, opted to keep him basically in the 2 path until they straightened away, so he was able to save as much ground as possible. And Porter Street does the rest here, lowering his body to the turf and flying home past everybody to get it by about 2 lengths or so at the wire. Claimed off Angel Rodriguez by Safi Joseph Jr. you're going to get higher than 1 to 5, but this horse probably going to be an underlaid favorite.
I think he is too. And there's a couple things to take away from this. And I have a positive stat and you have a negative stat to show. So we'll start off with the positive one. This is Saffie Joseph Jr. This is just looking in the last 90 days because we've been talking about how maybe the barn is a little bit cool lately. First off the claim, he's 3 for 6, and 5 of them have finished in the money, and it's a positive ROI. So he's not actually cool first off the claim. He's just not claiming as frequently as he was in the winter. So I think that's something that's important to note. The other thing with Porter Street is that he's done nothing wrong lately.
No, he's been good.
He ran exceptionally well last time. He was beaten 2 back by King Hood, who is main speed, and just wired the field, but he was very game. And then he broke his maiden prior to that. And that's Angel Rodriguez on the turf, which is not his strongest place to be.
Now, speaking of Angel Rodriguez, we do have a stat, and we like to play devil's advocate and look at both sides of the coin and hopefully give you a few different looks at a race. You've got a case of Porter Street going off the claim for Saffie, claimed out of a barn, who, by the way, Angel Rodriguez horses immediately claimed out of his barn have gone 3 for 60 for 5%. An ROI of 38 cents. That gives me a little cause for pause there in that department.
Yeah, I certainly understand that. And I know, yes, it is hard to claim off of the Rodriguez barn, but again, I do still think that this horse has been in solid form lately, and I like to see that that Tyler Gaffleone does stay. As far as Classic Move goes, he really improved after they gelded him, because when he was with Shug McGahee back in the winter and the spring, there's no better way to put it, he was insane. He almost actually went in the fountain one day during the afternoon. He was absolutely crazy and very hard to manage, but he's a good-looking animal. He obviously has talent. So since gelding, he's really has improved. I just kind of wonder, will he be able to make it 2 in a row?
I'm hoping he is. I think he's well spotted here for Lisa Lewis, and because he's a 3-year-old and he's eligible for this race despite being a 2-time winner. Allowance to claiming over the last 5 years, Lisa Lewis has gone 5 for her last 11 for 45%. Good enough for me in Friday's first race against Porter Street. Moving on to race number 2, when we got through this card unscathed in the scratch department.
Yes, we're
I think
lucky.
there's 3 scratches to be had and a couple of rider changes down the road, but we do have a field of 6. We did lose the 3. That's a myth out of this upcoming second race, a 62.50 claimer for 3 and up fillies and mares. And with that one out, that may ultimately, at least in my eyes, make the 6 Starship Reina that much tougher. And I picked her solely on the basis of her running style. I like that early speed she brings to the race, and I do think she's quick enough in here to control the pace.
It certainly could be. If the number 1 is Square to Spare does not send from the rail, which I feel like she might have some speed, but I think the 6 Starship Reina, who ran very well in her first fast main track race last time behind Beauty of a Day. I certainly do like her, but I did think going back to dirt, the number 1 is Square to Spare. Things have just not really been working on the turf lately. When she started out her career, Jason Service had her on the dirt, so I'm saying, hey, well, if this is where Jason Service wanted to start her, he knows more than I do about where a horse will begin. And there is dirt pedigree as well. So I took a stab with this one and had Garcias up.
All right, inside post, Jenna Antonucci, as that one plummets to 62.50. Moving on to race number 3 on the Friday card, a 7.5 furlong, 2-year-old, $25,000 maiden claimer, in which we go with a field of 10. There were no scratches to report in this one, and you've got not 1 but 2 horses for trainer Victor Barboza, and in fact, trainer Francisco D'Angelo also sends out a couple of runners. So both those guys saddle basically almost half this field, or 40% of this field, if you will. And you and I both like Barboza to get it done with the number 5, Uncle Pepe, who ran pretty well first time out behind an upset 11-1 wire-to-wire winner in Lithium Z.
That horse was really impressive for Michelle Nihei, and we'll show a stat, kind of a trainer-jockey stat, looking at Victor Barboza Jr. with Emisel Jaramillo at the maiden claiming level. They do a great job. They're batting about 31%, 61% of the time in the money, a positive ROI. So when Barboza reaches out for Jaramillo for his maiden claimers, they've had a lot of success. There's certainly turf pedigree. I thought he looked like a turf horse in his debut, and that he could handle the added distance to go the 2 turns.
Now, the other Barboza horse, Zionsville, if my memory is correct, certainly a late scratch here on August 13th, race 7 for $16K on the dirt in a well-bet debut. I think this horse was very unsettled entering the gate, thrashed around in the starting gate, and ultimately, as a precautionary scratch, was taken out of competition and returns here for $25,000 on the turf. We'll see what that one can do if they bet that horse at all. But number 5, Uncle Pepe, for Acacia and myself, and we both like a cold 5-3 exacta, and you probably saw what I saw with the 3, Sold That Storm, who's got the always dangerous Kathleen O'Connell, and she gives a leg up to Edgard here.
That's always a good sign. Plus, the dam was multiple stakes place. She won on the turf as well. Yes, this horse is debuting for the tag, but he was only purchased for $7,000.
Yep, son of Soldad, who, speaking of Soldad, he's the sire of a younger half-sister, a 2-year-old, who's a half to 3 rules.
Yes.
She'll be debuting here Sunday afternoon, a 12-race card that gets underway at 12:45 p.m. That's all down the road. Of immediate concern, Chasing the Rainbow, Acacia's Ticket, and a whole lot more coming your way after this quick break.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet, we are racing.
Hey, South Florida, it's time to get social at sunset. This summer at Gulfstream Park, as the sun goes down, the scene heats up. Join us each week for Twilight Racing Fridays, a fusion of horse racing, food and drink specials, and live performances by local bands. Enter drawings and play horse racing bingo, your chance to win incredible prizes. Live racing begins at 2:15. Admission and parking are free. Visit GulfstreamPark.com for more details. Gulfstream Park, Twilight Racing Fridays. Get social at sunset.
Well, that first pick 3 down in the chart books forever, at least as far as Gulfstream today is concerned, and a hearty welcome back live from our paddock set. Breeze is blowing ever so slightly here in the backyard as Acacia and Jason catch up with you. Act number 2 today, and it begins in race 4, just a 9-race card, so how much are we spending?
All right, well, I tried to keep it a little bit more affordable today. $28.80.
Ooh, a cheap one
yes,
today.
A cheap one. We're going a little bit lightly so that we can bring out the big guns tomorrow on Florida Sire Stakes Day. Hopefully, as I said, we've had that bankroll. I'll just use 2 horses in here. As I said, the high purchase, Whisper Hill Farm, Tapping Colors, and the 3 Meant to Be Mine. Again, hinging on Untruthful Sonnet. And then in the 6th race, wanted a little bit more coverage. I like the Mess. I don't know if I completely trust him. I will use a couple others in there in Equity and Shot Jack. And then as we get to the 7th race, Tilly's Lily, I think, is a really strong contender. But I do actually really like Lady Coventry off of the layoff, and I think a couple others in there certainly could have a bit of a shot. So I'll spread in there hoping to get some value. Going to be using Concealed with a Kiss and Alpine Sky, a bit of a rematch between the 2 of them coming out of the same race. And then 3 deep in the finale. Looks to me like Forever Admiral and House Account on the outside are the most logical, but I did throw in D Maestro as Edgard Zayas does see to stay for a 3rd consecutive race on this horse. We'll see if today might be the day.
Oh, that gives me some solace seeing who you used in the nightcap, because I have every bit on my late pick 5, the 6, 8, and 10, and you'll see my comment in a few seconds, and I think you'll chuckle when you see it. Let's talk about the 4th, though, and you've got, I guess, the starting point, maybe just because of her pedigree and $700,000 tag, and the fact that she debuted up at Belmont, right around Belmont Stakes Week for Chad Brown, is the 2 Tapping Colors, who didn't do a heck of a lot of running, it seemed, in a race that, at least as far as next out runners, they've gone 0 for 7.
Yes, I did see that. It really hasn't been a productive race. She has been freshened up since June, now with Ralph Nix. He does have several Whisper Hill Farm horses, so this one, it doesn't really look like so much of a give up, but she was a high price purchase. She's out of an unraced mare. She is kin to a horse who was a 4-time dirt sprinter in Silver Ride, but that's about it as far as pedigree on the bottom side. She's a 4-year-old filly by Tappet, making her 2nd start. I thought there was still quite a bit of question question marks there, though.
Now, you went one next to her, and
did.
you're getting some serious speed. And going through this car with you, Acacia, and all of you out there, this could be a pretty big opening half to the Friday program for trainer Kathleen O'Connell, who, if you want the speed, you might just have it in the 3 meant to be mine.
That's kind of what I'm going off of. She faced the boys in state bred special weight competition last time, and then she ran third behind a runaway Tilly's Lily in her debut. So I think she's faced the best, really. She has a really good size for her, so we'll see if being back with the fillies is the right move.
Yeah, I think that'll be the right move. Even if she's not good enough today, hits the board but doesn't win per se, much better spot than trying the boys, including the Bull, who's running here either tomorrow
He's back
or
sprinting,
Sunday. Is he running
sprinting
tomorrow?
again.
Is he? Saturday afternoon, 13 races again on that Florida Sire Stakes card. I'll take the 5 Who's Calling, who I feel as though going in, and she's obviously a maiden, but I'm going to call her like the most accomplished horse just because she's been so consistent. She's never finished worse than 3rd in 6 starts. And I think everyone in here has to improve a little bit to get to the kind of figures she's been ringing up. She's just been a little faster than these, and I'm hoping that comes into play today. We also have a Saffy firster, and a rare one at that on the rail, and the one First Mistress, who Saffy does reach out for Tyler Gaffleone on this filly by First Dude. Now, we'll show you a little rundown here. The dam of First Mistress was unraced. This is the 4th foal. The 3 other siblings are winners. You had 2 siblings who banked $300,000 plus in dirt sprints, and this is a horse who a long time ago sold for a modest $20K as a 2-year-old in training.
Yeah, she's a half to Mia Tori, who's a multiple stakes winner in graded stakes place. We saw her run down here impressively, so we'll see if she does run to that. I wanted to see one for a first-time starter, though she does have a very intriguing work tab.
Indeed she does. For a trainer who, with his firsters over the last 5 years, just 1 for 27. This is an avenue we just haven't seen a lot from Saffy in, but he's another name that is only going one way, and that is up, and he's got some live ones on the card. Moving on to the 5th, speaking of live ones, we start the late pick 5 with this $35,000 maiden claimer. These are 3 and up filly and mares on the turf, and you've got Armando de Lacerda, whose horses look pretty solid, in my opinion, in both races 5 and 6. And as we give you a little rundown of our ticket, I am going to use the 1 and 4 in this race. Cool Mayara interested me just a little bit because she is bred for the turf on the dam side, and maybe she shows why she was such a short price in her debut. They've all got to beat, though, the number 4 in Truthful Sonnet. In race number 6, I prefer the Mess, but I used 3 in there. I'm just going to roll with the JT Express. Jonathan Thomas is just in a zone, and I loved what I saw from Tilly's Lily, and she's out of a dam who was a very good turf sprinter in her own right during her racing days. You obviously saw that. The 8th race on the afternoon. If Alpine Sky can muster up a comparable effort to her last race on August 11th, I think she's close to unbeatable in the 8th. That might be a big if. I also used the Speedy Conceal with the Kiss, who's a tough old mare and pretty solid. And I got a little smiley face on there. If we get up to race 9, I think we're hitting this thing for 18 bucks. 6, 8, 10. Try box till the cows come home in the last race.
I like it.
Tell me, though, about the number 4 in Truthful Sonnet, because we got to start somewhere, and that somewhere is race number 5.
Well, I'm going to go with this one. As I said, in Armando, we trust this filly's going back to the turf where she did start. So all of her turf races have been against significantly tougher, as you pointed out earlier. Even her debut race back in April, that was a very tough field at that time. And she ran well. So she's going back to the turf. The dam's only start was on the grass, even though she didn't win. She finished 2nd, and the only sibling did win on the turf as well. So this looks to be the right spot.
All right, a 4-9 exacta with River Springs 2nd for Acacia's. Trainer Todd Quast, maybe not a household name. He's got a couple of horses who command a little respect on the card today, also sending out Alpine Sky in our featured 8th race. Let's give you a quick rundown, though, before we turn the page on Cool Mayara, who goes from the rail, 2nd-time starter, who didn't show anything first time out a race. She was strongly bet, and that was not a complete cakewalk off the turf race. In fact, Who's Calling, who I like in a tough fourth race, was second in that spot. Now, you have a dam who was 1 for 7 during her career. She was 0 for 2 on the turf. A couple of sibs are already winners, and I like that Majestic Mayar as a half-sister. She ran yesterday, in fact, and she's won a couple of times on the grass.
She has. I saw all of those notes as well, and I think the drop-in class is in the second start, plus Sebastian Sayas getting in the saddle, too. So we'll see if she is able to improve second time out, but she will, I think, have to take a big step forward.
Let's get to a spotlight. August 12th of The Mess. As we turn the page, we'll come up on race number 6, a 2 lifetime 3 and up, 3/4 sprint here as we start Friday's late pick 4. Big speed from the get-go when this horse broke his maiden here in mid-August for $10,000, and it's not a case of the connections and Armando de la Cerda getting cute or trying to reinvent the wheel. Put this one into lifetime for the bottom, and ultimately, I think with this one's speed, the result is probably, I'm hoping, going to be the same.
It certainly could be. I think that Shot Jack does have a little bit of speed as well. The Mess was very impressive. One thing that did make me pause a little bit is I looked at maiden winners last time out in dirt sprints, and the barn is 0 for 9 over the past 5 years, and only 3 of those have hit the board. So I'm proceeding with caution. I certainly would not leave this horse off, and as I said, Armando's just been going so great lately. I like that Jose Batista stays aboard. I know the drop is a little bit of a question for equity, but I do think that he might just be one of the stronger horses as far as the talent department and who he's faced in those past few starts. Obviously, things just weren't working against the tougher competition, so that's why Jose Pinchinsi's drop in last time against 12-5. He showed a little bit of early interest and then just kind of stopped. So maybe now he'll kind of get in a good stalking position, and I'm just hoping the easier spot will help him.
Yeah, it seems like they're just pulling out all the stops, and rightfully so. A very pivotal race for equity.
Yes.
I could see him just romping here and dropping and finally having some life for 62.50, or you might get a horse who just isn't competitive at this point, even running for the bottom here at GP. Race number 7 on the afternoon as we head down the stretch. Again, just a 9-race card. A rarity these days at GP, kind of an old school feel as we get back on the turf for a 5 furlong and a couple of good ones late in the card here in this other than allowance optional claimer for 3 and up fillies and mares. We learn a little bit more about Tilly's Lily, who even though her race was rained off the turf, we will show you that effort back on July 21st. She could not have been any better and maybe flashed her hand at being pretty good.
Yeah, she certainly did. She was ultra impressive, and that race did produce 2 next out winners. Our Precious came back to win an off the turf race. In fact, that race that you were just talking about. We'll see if Meant to Be Mine can improve now. As I mentioned, she had faced Tilly's Lily, just pulled away from the rest of the field in here. Now, she is out of a mare that was very good on the turf, as you said, in Supreme. She was a stakes winner and graded stakes placed. Tyler Gaffleone to be in the saddle. Just wanted to see one more from her and see if she can repeat that kind of performance, as she is kind of a new face facing horses that are much more tested. The 5 Lady Coventry is coming off of a layoff, but I just remember really loving this horse back in the summer and even in the winter as well. I don't know if she's as classy. In fact, I don't think that she is as Tilly's Lily, especially with the price tag, but I think that she is a very strong and consistent runner, and even though she's off the layoff, I'll give her a try.
It's a very comparable situation to, I think, Righteous Ruth against Cajun Queen and some of those older mares midway through the Thursday card here at Gulfstream Park, and obviously Righteous Ruth won by the barest of noses, but a good matchup between an up-and-comer and some horses who have kind of danced a lot of dances and who have been pretty good. Let's move on to race number 8 this afternoon. The 8th race is, at least in my mind going in, it boils down to a rematch, and clearly you agree, between Conceal with a Kiss and the number 5 Alpine Sky. They're coming out of the same race here on August the 11th. For Conceal with the Kiss, she was able to really revert back to one of her better races. We've got her highlighted first, the gray on the lead, and it's only until deep stretch that she starts to tire and weaken just a bit. Thought Alpine Sky got a very good ride, and man, she ran well despite losing a vicious photo at 26-1. But I think a reprise of this race from Alpine Sky probably is just too good for this field to handle.
I agree with you, and she was actually a very big price that day. You can see that she was 25 to 1. Now, I almost kind of wonder, did she hang a little bit? Did she maybe just lose momentum, or was she just on the bad side of the bob? And I'm going to give it that she missed the bob. I like that Tyler Gaffleone's going to be aboard here. And that was when she was actually switching from running on the turf at Laurel. So it looks like the mile on the dirt at Gulfstream is a place she's very comfortable.
And as far as Conceal with the Kiss, she was good. They tried her in the Princess Rooney. She was a gazillion to one. She didn't run. They brought her back 6 days later. She looked unbeatable. She didn't lift a hoof. I was happy and didn't think maybe she had it in her at this point, but she ran well last time out, and I'm wondering if she's the one that takes up maybe that tracking spot right outside the inside runner. She takes heart.
I think that she's better showing speed, but she's not necessarily a need-the-lead type. She's proved that before, and she is just as battle tough as they come, an 11-time winner out of 37 starts.
Yeah, and claimed, I can't remember, I looked it up a couple of starts back for her, I think for 12,000 or so, and she's banked well over 6 figures. She is just solid, and we'll see how she does in that rematch against Alpine Sky. As we close it out, well, you already know who we like. 6, 8, 10 to the hoop here in the nightcap, race number 9, a $20,000 maiden claiming race. These are 3 and up on the turf at a mile and a 16th. And in the case of, and I did take the number 6 to Maestro second, I like that Edgard stays and this horse's last couple against slightly better or slightly richer maiden claimers were respectable, relatively speaking. But in the case of your pick, the 8 Forever Admiral, I don't know if we'll ever encounter a 6-year-old maiden who looks as good as Forever Admiral
I know,
does.
it's really crazy. I was thinking at this, and I obviously a big reason is the 16-month layoff or so, but he's now third off the bench. Miguel Vasquez aboard again. And I like Contraction in the first race at a price, and this horse was second to Contraction. So we'll see if Forever Admiral can finally get to the winner's circle.
And we'll see Mr. El Guapo, the one and only Ron Nicoletti. We've also got the big man coming your way. That's track announcer Pete Aiello. Your Twilight Friday scratches and changes. There aren't many. They're coming up shortly, and we'll see you before the first.